everybody. I would like to talk to you today about tips for journal reviewers. This is very important subjects because over the years I have been asked by multiple of my junior colleagues, Dr. Jazieh, I have been asked to review an article for a journal. What should I do? And being an editor-in-chief and in editorial boards of many journals, I realized that many of the reviewers, they lack the basic skills of how to critically review an article. So let's start with the basic question. Why to become a reviewer? Being a reviewer, it will have multiple benefits to you. Number one, it will improve your editorial and publishing skills. You will know how the things are done. You will learn the principles of publications, and eventually you may become an editorial board member and then editor-in-chief if you are interested to pursue that track. But also it will improve your writing skills because you'll be getting exposed to different people's work. It will also bring you up to date in the field in the sense that you will be reading the cutting-edge research in the field that of your area of interest, and you will know what people are doing far before the people read about it in the text, in the journals, and so on. And the last thing, it will be a good service for the science. Many journals are struggling with having reviewers, and some of them spend months and even up to a year or so and returning some of the articles because they don't have a reviewer to do that. And it also feels good that you will be seeing some of your work that you help improve, publish in a journal, and you say, that this is my contribution to the science. How do you get invited? There are two ways you get invited to review an article. Number one, passively means, the journal send you an article to review from their databases. Either you were an author or you publish something, they track your name and send you, or proactively by you registering your name in the journal databases and seek to support them, and therefore they will send you an article for review. What would you do before accepting the article? Before accepting the article, you should look whether the article is a subject of your interest and your expertise. If they are sending you about something that is not within your area of expertise and you cannot provide fair, in-depth review to the article, you better refuse it from the beginning. Make sure that you don't have a conflict of interest with the article, whether it's a competing conflicts with the authors and the subject and so on, or close relation with the authors and subject, such to be a relative or from your own institution or something like this. You may have to decline. And then you make sure that you can deliver on time. If they gave you the deadline of doing the review in 2 weeks, you should look at your schedule and see, can I deliver this in 2 weeks? After accepting the article for review, you really need to make sure that you get familiar with the scope of the journal and the type of articles they publish, so you know how you are going to judge the article. And then when you look at the particular article at hand, you need to know what type of article. Is it research article? Is it original research? It is case studies? Is it commentary? And so on. Is it review article? Because that's how you are going to judge the articles. And that's why when you know the type of article, it will be easy to look at the guidelines. There are published guidelines by the Equator Network, having different guidelines based on the papers. For example, Consort guideline for the clinical trials, BRISMA for systematic review and meta-analysis, Squire guideline for quality improvement. And you can look at their website, equatornetwork.org, equator-network.org, and you look at these guidelines for publications. Now, when you start looking at the actual review process, you look first if the journal has a checklist that they want you to complete, because if they have the checklist, then it will be very critical that you comply with that, because at the end of the day you need to make a service to the journal that help them make a decision. So you start with the title. Is the title appropriate? Does it give a good idea, an accurate idea about the study or about the paper? There is no exaggeration or misrepresentation in the title. Then you move down to the abstract. Is the abstract good executive summary representing the manuscript? Is it consistent with the body of the text of the manuscript? And does it give fair idea about it? Then you move down to the body of the manuscripts, and there are different sections based on the type of articles. But classically, there are introduction, methods, results, discussions, and conclusions, and then references in the end. Each of the section answers specific questions, and you need to be convinced that they are giving you the correct or the convincing answer for each of these questions. In the introduction, or in some journals maybe called background, the author should answer the question why. Why did they do the study or the project? Did the author convince you that this project is worthwhile? Usually, the introduction will include the importance of the topic, what is known about it in the literature, what is missing, the gap that the author is trying to address, and then always the introduction should finish with the objectives of the study. Then you move to the methods. The methods answer the questions: how did the authors did their study, their projects, and so on. So you look at the study design. Do they have clear study population, inclusion, exclusion criteria, data management, statistical analysis? Did the author explain the methods in an understandable way, reproducible way? And did they address any ethical concerns? Specifically, did they obtain institutional review board approval? Then you move to the result. The result answered the question of what? What did they find? What did the author find? Were the results presented in a logical manner? Do the numbers add up? Are the figures and tables clear and complete, and they tell the story? Are there missing data, and so on? Then you can also check if there is anything missing that they said they will analyze it in the methods, but they did not report it in the results. And then comes to the discussion. In the result, the author should not put any reflection on the result or judgment or anything. They just mention the results in an objective way without commentary on it. And in the discussion, you will be looking at the answer of the question of so what. In the discussion, the authors have to bring up the major finding they have and reflect on it and put it in proper perspective of the literature. Why their study result is important, how is it compared with other results? If they were the same, okay, that's validation of the other studies, or if it's different, why it's different, and they should give a reasonable explanation. And it's okay to be hypothesis, not firm answer, because they cannot be sure, because they cannot compare two studies, in the discussion in just a matter of opinion. It will be so. And then bottom line, they have to reflect on the implication of the study on the practice on other people. And the most important thing you need to look at in the discussion, have they mentioned the limitation of their study? So did they mention the limitation of their studies? And if not, you have to point out that to them. And if there's limitation, how did they try to remedy these limitations? So you need to make sure that also in the discussion that they did not miss a major findings from other studies and they ignore it, or they forgot it, or they did not find it. So then we move on to the next item, which is conclusion. Sometimes the conclusion will be the last paragraph of the discussion, may not be a separate subtitle, but if it is anyway, in either way, the conclusion has to be accurate. Does it have clear message about the future direction and the potential use of the study and what will be built on that study? They should not repeat the results. They should not repeat the discussion. They should tell you what is the take-home message from their study. When you look at the references, are they up to date? If you look and you find the last article they referred to was 2010. Where are these 9-10 years of literature missed? There's nobody published in that period, and so on. And then are they balanced, accurate, and so on? This is complete. This is very important to think about it when you are looking at the references. Overall, when you look at the overall, so you finish the reading everything and criticizing it, then you have to think, does all the pieces fall together nicely to complete the picture of publishable product for that particular journal at hand? So this is, when you finish reviewing everything, you say, okay, now is that good enough to be published in this journal? Because sometimes, article may not be good enough for a particular journal, and, will be, whether it's the scope or the level or whatever, and it will be good for another journal. So if you are a reviewer for 2 journals, you have to really look at what is the content of each journals, their impact, their scope, and so on. Now, let me mention a few things about do and do not do. So do the following: be professional, impartial. It's very critical not to take things personal and attack the authors. Pay attention to the content, originality, significance. Give a constructive feedbacks to editors and to the authors. Usually, you can divide them into major comments and minor comments. Please give also clear, confidential advice to the editor. You can tell him that, I don't think this paper is publishable. It's okay, but you don't say that to the authors. But, if you tell them that, this paper could be good if they fix the following 1, 2, 3. Or you can say this paper is, has many pitfalls that cannot be published. I would not recommend pursuing, because that will help the editor-in-chief decide about it. And if there's an area of difficult for you, is not in your expertise, such as require accomplished statistical review, you can suggest that. You can say, some of the statistical sections and tests I don't understand, I suggest that you get statistical review. Now, do not do the following things. Do not insult the authors and put them down. Do not do extensive grammar and language editing, because there'll be copy editing, there'll be other, and there'll be other process after that, not your job. So do not waste your time on that. But if you notice a lot of grammar mistakes, you can mention that the article requires professional editing. Do not, really, you do not reject the article because of language mistake if the content is very important. So do not contact authors. Do not disclose the content to anybody. If you want to discuss it with somebody else in your institution, or you want to get somebody to do that with you, take a permission from the editorial team. Do not comment on the acceptability of the article to the authors, and do not pass the deadline. So in summary, here you have 2 roles, 2 hats. You are wearing 2 hats when you are a reviewer. One hat is for the editor-in-chief and the journal, and basically here you have to give them a justification and advice, whether to accept the paper or not, and if they're acceptable, what are the improvement they need to meet the expectation, or reject the paper because of the weakness that you will highlight. So in this role, you are an advisor. Now, the second role is, for the authors, by giving them constructive feedback to improve the quality of their paper. And by this hat, you are playing the role of the mentor. So you act like a mentor. A mentor is trying to help his mentees to do a better job in this. So by this I hope these tips will be helpful to you, in doing the reviewing job, that you get in the future. And I'll be encouraging all of you, if you are not a reviewer for journals, select the journal that you like, and the journal that of interest to you, and try to get the chance of reviewing papers. This will be fun and a good credential for you. Thank you very much.